From millionaire to homeless, the black man who outsmarted Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Ethan Parker's name was everywhere. Not just on the tech blogs or in the boardrooms of Silicon Valley, but blasted across headlines like a wildfire. From millionaire to homeless, the black man who outsmarted Elon Musk and Donald Trump. It sounded insane, impossible even. A billionaire tech titan reduced to nothing, yet somehow flipping the game against two of the most powerful men on the planet. The story spread like lightning. People whispered about an underground deal, a secret algorithm designed in Ethan's penthouse, a tool so dangerous it sent stock markets into chaos. They said he'd crushed Musk's latest project with a single line of code. Others claimed he exposed secret deals that made Trump sweat. The rumors piled up, each wilder than the last, fueling a storm around this man, who'd climbed to fame with cutting-edge gadgets that stirred outrage and admiration alike. But the truth? He had more money than most could dream of. Yet, inside his glass cage, he felt a hollow ache, like his heart beat under layers of cold metal and plastic. Every conversation was shallow. The parties, empty echoes of laughter, masking his sinking loneliness. One afternoon, chaos erupted downtown. The city streets cracked open with fiery protests, people shouting for justice, fists pounding on concrete. A stir that the suits up high tried to ignore. Ethan found himself pulled into the madness by chance or fate. In the roar of sirens and clashing voices, Ethan saw her. Layla Johnson, a woman no camera dared follow closely. Her eyes burned with defiance, wild and fierce amidst the smoke and sweat. She was fighting, not like the fragile elite around Ethan, but with raw, bloodied hope. And when some masked agitators turned on her, Ethan acted without thought. His voice cut through the chaos, defending her like a shield. Layla's story spilled out in sharp, ragged pieces. She'd grown up fighting for every breath in a city swallowed by crime and loss. Her family crushed by tragedy, dreams stripped away by pain, yet something inside her refused to break. Her hands trembled when she spoke, but her spirit blazed like a wildfire. Ethan felt it, deep in his chest, a spark igniting decades of numbness. But not everyone was happy. Ethan's advisors, the slick faces behind the luxury walls, started working in shadows. Whispers turned to plots. They painted Ethan's friendship with Layla as reckless, dangerous, a stain on his spotless image. Fake stories emerged. Social media turned dark, threatening to tear him down harder than any lawsuit. Then came the shock. Layla dropped a bomb. Hidden inside her battered past was a birthright, a fortune fought lost, a lineage that could make or break lives, a chance to reclaim a throne of wealth or stay fighting for the streets that shaped her. The choice was a knife slicing between glory and purpose. Ethan's world tilted. Who was he, really? A man built on profit and power? Or someone searching for something real? But just as answers seemed near, a shadow crept closer. Threats whispered in the dark. Danger stalked Layla's fragile new path, pulling them into a storm no money could calm. As sirens wailed and hands clenched, Ethan faced a brutal question. How far would he go to protect the woman who shattered his walls? And what price would he pay for a life worth living? The city held its breath, and so did they, standing on the edge of a war between loyalty and ambition, truth and survival. What happens next? What dark secrets still lurk beneath this twisted bond? Keep watching. The story is just beginning. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments. What city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact! Ethan and Layla stood at the center of chaos, the air heavy with tension and uncertainty. The distant pounding of fists on metal echoed in Ethan's chest, a reminder life could change in an instant. They both felt it, a surge of adrenaline, a flicker of hope, and yet a looming darkness that cast shadows over their fragile connection. As they faced the swirling crowd, a figure broke through the throng. A man dressed in black, face hidden beneath a hood. But the otherworldly calm he emitted cut through the raw emotions surrounding them. He walked with purpose, eyes dimmed but piercing, zeroing in on Ethan and Layla. Time slowed. The crowd roared. But Ethan could only hear his heart thumping in his ears. Layla frowned, hands tightening into fists. "Who is that?" she whispered, her voice almost lost in the chaos. "I don't know." Ethan's words hung in the air, heavy with dread. The hooded figure stepped closer, revealing a glimmer of recognition in the lines of his jaw. Ethan's pulse raced. It couldn't be. Not him. His former mentor, Marcus Steele. The man who taught Ethan everything about tech and power, about secrecy and influence. A ghost from a past he thought he'd escaped. "Ethan," Marcus drawled, his voice smooth like silk, sifting through the storm. "Long time no see." Ethan's stomach sank. Layla stepped forward, her posture tense, defiance ready to surface. "What do you want?" Marcus smiled, but he didn't reach his eyes. It was a look that sent chills spiraling down Ethan's spine. "I have information. Information that alters everything you thought you knew." "About what?" Ethan's pulse quickened, anxiety curling like smoke inside him. "About Layla," Marcus stated, his gaze shifting to her and her family. Layla's eyes widened, a mix of fear and curiosity wrestling for control. "What do you know?" Her voice trembled slightly, stabbing at the underlying bond between them. "She may be better positioned than either of you realize. A wealth of power lies dormant in her blood, one you'd both be foolish to overlook." He leaned closer, whispering, "But holding such power also means making dangerous enemies. You saw how easily the streets turned violent today." Ethan, boom, felt a jolt. Layla, a pawn in a grand game, an heir to a fortune? Ideas clashed in his mind, leaving turmoil in their wake. "What do you mean?" he pressed, desperate to unravel the truth. Then came the twist. Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a small metallic device. "Before you ask, know this. Layla's real family isn't who you think. They're deeper, darker, and they're watching. A sudden crack of thunder split the sky. Rain began to fall, heavy and unrelenting, drenching the crowd in seconds. Gasps startled the audience as people shielded their heads, some sloshing away in terror, others mesmerized with wide eyes. "Marcus!" Ethan shouted, anger flaring. "Are you saying she's in danger?" "Danger?" Marcus chuckled, like a wolf reveling in the hunt. "You have no idea how deep this rabbit hole goes. Layla carries secrets that'll shake this city to its core, and shake your world with it." Layla stepped back, a tremble coursing through her. "What secrets?" Before Marcus could reply, a loud explosion erupted nearby. A flash of light lit the street, choking smoke curling into the air. Screams erupted as chaos reignited around them. People surged, pushing and pulling, desperate to escape the scene. Ethan's heart raced, hand clasping Layla's, fear gripping him tighter than ever. "We need to get out of here." But just as he turned, he saw her expression shift, eyes wide, shadowed by realization. "Ethan, I don't care about your past. Just come with me." He pulled her back towards safety, adrenaline pounding in his veins. Yet she hesitated, torn. "What if I can't escape it? What if those secrets are who I'm meant to be?" The explosion rang in his ears, muffling her words, wrapping him in dread. Was the woman next to him truly uncertain about who she was? The crowd surged like a wild wave, pulling them in different directions. And just when he thought he could shield her from it all, dark figures emerged from the smoke, their faces hidden, but their presence unmistakable. Ethan felt the air thicken with imminent danger. His grip tightened as realization set in. The real battle was just beginning. A reckoning was coming, and neither Layla nor Ethan could escape the past. No matter how hard they tried, the city was transforming, and so were they. What haunted secrets lay ahead? Only time could unveil the twisting paths before them, and the cost of what they might discover was yet to be seen. Ethan stood there, heart racing as he faced Layla, the woman who had turned his world upside down. The weight of his decision pressed on him. But before he could speak, a loud crash shook the air. Glass shattered. The crowd froze. An explosion rang out a few blocks away, a burst of chaos erupting into the air. Panic spread like wildfire. People screamed, hands clutching at their throats, eyes wide with terror. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He grabbed Layla's hand, pulling her toward the nearest alley. "Let's go!" he shouted over the din. He could feel her trembling, but there was a fire in her gaze. In the alley, they pressed against the cool brick, panting. The booming around them was deafening, yet a low, chilling feeling crept up Ethan's spine. "What was that?" Layla gasped, her voice shaky. "Stay close," he said, scanning the streets filled with rushing bodies. Then, through the chaos, the shocking stench of smoke and something more sinister reached him. Another echo of destruction rattled down the street. And then came the sirens, blending with the people's cries. The world felt like it was falling apart. In that moment, Ethan's phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He pulled it out, the screen flashing a message. "Get out now! You're in danger." Confusion clouded his mind. "Who sent this?" he murmured. His heart raced faster. Should he trust it? But there was no time. Suddenly, a voice emerged from behind him. Ethan! It was Marcus, his closest advisor. Sweaty, wild-eyed, and panic-stricken. "We need to leave, now!" "What's happening?" Ethan demanded, his body practically vibrating with tension. "There's more than just a protest out there. The rumors have gone viral. Blackmailers are after you. You exposed too much!" Marcus's gaze darted down the alley as the noise intensified. "We have to split up!" "Split up?" Layla echoed, confusion etched across her face. Before Ethan could respond, a loud crack echoed, and a wall of smoke billowed out into the street. Panic surged around them like a tidal wave, and then Marcus's face twisted in horror. "Ethan, no!" he shouted. But it was too late. Those they thought were allies came charging in from the flanks. Black masks obscured their faces, their intentions crystal clear. Ethan pushed Layla behind him, the urgent need to protect her overwhelming him. But then, in that split second, Marcus's eyes widened in terror, his mouth moving, but no sound escaping. A flash, a blur, then a gunshot rang out. Everything halted. The world faded into silence as time seemed to stretch. Marcus staggered back, hands clutching his chest, blood blooming against his white shirt. Layla screamed. Someone else screamed, and Ethan's legs felt like stone. "Marcus!" he yelled, rushing forward, but Layla grabbed his arm, desperation pouring from her. "Ethan, we have to go!" As he looked back, their eyes locked, and in that moment, Ethan saw something shift within Marcus. A flicker of in a split second, the truth twisted around them. Secrets darker than shadows were finally unearthing. Snapping back to the chaos, Ethan turned to Layla, her frantic expression matching his rising fear. "We have to leave!" But as they turned to escape, another group appeared from the smoke. They were armed, eyes trained on Ethan, their purpose clear. "We know the truth, Ethan Parker," one growled, stepping forward. The ground underneath Ethan felt unsteady. Every second mattered. Would he risk everything to uncover the truth, or save the very woman who had rekindled his soul? The city screamed around them, and in that roar, everything stood at the edge of destruction. The night was far from over, and the real battle was just beginning. Ethan stood there, heart racing as he faced Layla, the woman who had turned his world upside down. The weight of his decision pressed on him, but before he could speak, a loud crash shook the air. Glass shattered. The crowd froze. An explosion rang out a few blocks away, a burst of chaos erupting into the air. Panic spread like wildfire. People screamed, hands clutching at their throats, eyes wide with terror. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He grabbed Layla's hand, pulling her toward the nearest alley. "Let's go," he shouted over the din. He could feel her trembling, but there was a fire in her gaze. In the alley, they pressed against the cool brick, panting. The booming around them was deafening, yet a low, chilling feeling crept up Ethan's spine. "What was that?" Layla gasped, her voice shaky. "Stay close," he said, scanning the streets filled with rushing bodies. Yet amid the chaos, a chilling sense of familiarity settled over him. The faces of the masked figures loomed in his mind like nightmares come to life. Another echo of destruction rattled down the street. Then came the sirens, blending with the people's cries. The world felt like it was falling apart. In that moment, Ethan's phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He pulled it out, the screen flashing a message. "Get out now! You're in danger!" Confusion clouded his mind. "Who sent this?" he murmured. His heart raced faster. Should he trust it? But there was no time. Suddenly, a voice emerged from behind him. "Ethan!" It was Marcus, his closest advisor, sweaty, wild-eyed, and panic-stricken. "We need to leave, now." "What's happening?" Ethan demanded, his body practically vibrating with tension. "There's more than just a protest out there. Rumors have gone viral. Blackmailers are after you. You exposed too much." Marcus's gaze darted down the alley as the noise intensified. "We have to split up." "Split up?" Layla echoed, confusion etched across her face. Before Ethan could respond, a loud crack echoed, and a wall of smoke billowed out into the street. Panic surged around them like a tidal wave. And then Marcus's face twisted in horror. "Ethan, no!" he shouted, but it was too late. Those they thought were allies came charging in from the flanks. Black masks obscured their faces, their intentions clear. Ethan pushed Layla behind him, the urgent need to protect her overwhelming him. But then, in that split second, Marcus's eyes widened in terror, his mouth moving, but no sound escaping. A flash, a blur, then a gunshot rang out. Everything halted. The world faded into silence as time seemed to stretch. Marcus staggered back, hands clutching his chest, blood blooming against his white shirt. Layla screamed, someone else screamed, and Ethan's legs felt like stone. "Marcus!" he yelled, rushing forward, but Layla grabbed his arm, desperation pouring from her. "Ethan, we have to go!" As he looked back, their eyes locked. And in that moment, Ethan saw something shift within Marcus. A flicker of acknowledgement, a haunting realization loomed in the space between them, turning the air cold. Was Marcus the traitor? Before he could process this, the ground shook beneath him. The chaos intensified, and without warning, a blinding flash of light erupted behind him. Ethan felt it before he saw it. The ground shook violently. A shockwave rolled over them, sending people sprawling to the pavement. He stumbled, catching Layla just as she fell, the two of them thudding against the alley wall. Then, emerging from the smoke, a figure appeared, tall, cloaked in black, a tangle of shadows. Ethan squinted, disbelief washing over him as he honed in on the face. It was Layla's younger brother, Jalen, a boy he thought lost to the streets long ago. "Jalen!" Layla's voice cracked, eyes wide. "Get back!" Jalen shouted, panic lacing his tone. "You don't know what you're getting into!" Stunned, Ethan felt the world tip again. Layla's family wasn't who he thought. They were deeper, more tangled in this web of danger than he ever imagined. A truth buried under layers of deceit was ready to rise, and it brought chaos with it. Suddenly, Jalen reached into his jacket, revealing a device Ethan recognized all too well. A digital schematics tool, the same kind Ethan had developed. You need to listen to me. This isn't just a fight. Everything you know is about to change. The air felt electric, and every heartbeat echoed urgency. All trust was unraveling, thin threads hanging in a storm. What did Jalen know? What secrets gripped Layla's family, binding them to this nightmare? Ethan looked between them, realization crashing down like thunder. They were all tied to this fate. Jalen, what's going on? Layla's voice was sharp, filled with a mix of fear and desperate hope. As the city held its breath, one question loomed larger than the rest. Who were they really, each of them, when the storm finally broke? The night was far from over, and with every tick of the clock, the true battle was just beginning. Ethan stood frozen, Layla beside him, the world around them buzzing with restless energy. The sirens wailed louder, drowning out the doubts that gnawed at his mind. Would he really stand up against everything he built? Would he defy the whispers of his advisors? The moment stretched thin, almost like a tightrope suspended above a great fall. But then it happened. A loud crash shattered the air. A storefront window erupted, glass raining down like crystal tears. People screamed. The crowd surged forward, raw panic swirling like a storm. Ethan instinctively reached for Layla, pulling her close. But in the madness, something else pulled at him. Something darker. He spotted a figure amid the chaos, moving swiftly. A quick flash of silver caught his eye, and then he saw it. A gun, stolen from a police officer during the ruckus. The masked figure raised the weapon. The barrel glinting ominously in the fading light. Instinct kicked in. Get down! He shouted, adrenaline flooding his veins. The crowd flattened. They ducked behind cars and barricades, hearts racing. Ethan and Layla stumbled to the ground, Layla's hand gripping his arm, fear etched across her face. Time slowed, the world a blur of noise and confusion. But just as Ethan felt a spark of hope, the unexpected twist landed like a hard blow. The gunman fired, not at the terrified crowd, but at the corporate building towering over them, windows exploding in a cascade of glass. Run! Someone yelled, but Ethan was immobilized by disbelief. What were they doing? Who was this madman? The crowd whipped into a panicked frenzy, rushing away from the scene. And then it happened. The gunman turned, pointed the gun directly at Ethan. For a split second, everything paused. He could feel every heartbeat in a suffocating silence. And then, a strange flicker of recognition flashed in the gunman's eyes. He knew him. A twist of fate, like a knife turning in his gut. Ethan Parker, the gunman shouted, voice thick with anger and betrayal. You know nothing about me. Nothing at all. Ethan blinked, grappling for clarity. He knew this face. This was Marcus, a former employee he dismissed years ago during a time when greed had blurred his vision. Marcus, the brilliant coder whose ideas had been stolen, manipulated, buried under Ethan's empire. Marcus, Ethan breathed, the name heavy on his lips. Confusion turned to horror. Had he driven this man to madness? The fear vanished, replaced by something far darker. Shame. Then the realization struck. a painful truth plummeting into him. His brilliant life wasn't built on innovation and merit, but on crushing the very dreams of people like Marcus. His hands trembled, heart pounding as the crowd erupted into chaos all over again. Layla's voice sliced through his thoughts, urgent, firm. "We have to go, now!" Her grip was iron on his arm, pulling him back. But it was too late. The shadows were gathering. The gunman's finger twitched at the trigger. Ethan's mind raced, caught between guilt and the desperate need to protect Layla. Would he sacrifice everything? His reputation? His standing? For redemption? Or would his past choices shatter the chance at something real? And in that moment, the city seemed to hold its breath. The stage set for a confrontation, a reckoning lingering in the air. What would unfold next? Would this confrontation destroy him, or finally set him free? Time to find out. But the cost would be great. As Ethan stood there, heart pounding, the weight of the moment pressed down hard. Layla's eyes shone, bright with the fire of defiance, but behind that fierce gaze lay an uncertain path. The city was alive with energy, the air thick with a mix of hope and fear. But then, in an instant, everything changed. A loud crack echoed like thunder. The crowd recoiled, screams piercing the air. Ethan turned and watched in horror as a figure, cloaked in black, emerged from the shadows. The masked individual raised a weapon, a gun glinting dangerously in the light. Time froze as a wave of panic surged. "Layla, get down!" Ethan shouted, diving towards her as chaos erupted. People scrambled, scattering like leaves caught in a gale. The gunman fired. A deafening bang rang out. A gasp escaped Ethan's throat as something hard slammed into his side, knocking him down. Pain flared through his body, and he hit the pavement gasping. "Ethan!" Layla screamed, eyes wide with terror. She rushed to him, but the gunman's laugh cut through the screams. It was eerie, the sound hollow, mocking. In that harrowing moment, everything Ethan thought he knew began to unravel. The crowd had become a sea of confusion, a swirling mass of bodies rushing to escape. But as he fought against the pain, Ethan noticed something striking. The gunman wasn't just random chaos. There was intent behind that mask, a dangerous familiarity. Ethan grasped Layla's hand, pulling her close. "We need to move." But as he struggled to rise, something caught his eye. A flash of red. It was a bandana hanging from the gunman's pocket, unmistakable. It was a mark he recognized. The very same mark that traced back to a group he had tried to suppress years ago. A group that had entangled with his past. Suddenly, everything crashed together. The whispers he'd heard, the hidden plots brewing around him, they were all part of this. The urgency of the moment faded as realization sank in. Layla turned, confusion written all over her face. "What's happening?" Ethan shook his head. "I thought I was protecting you. But this is bigger than us." A wave of nausea washed over him as pain twisted in his side. More shots rang out. Layla flinched but didn't move, locked in place by disbelief. The crowd surged again, desperate to escape the madness consuming them. Then Ethan saw it, out of the corner of his eye, figures lurking in the distance, emerging from the mayhem. Each of them bore that same insignia. Every notion he carried of security and power felt wrenched away. "Get back!" he yelled, urging Layla to flee. But then a second figure peeled away from the shadows, revealing a familiar face. It was one of his trusted advisors, Cole, grinning like a wolf. "Didn't think I'd let you off so easily, did you, Ethan?" Cole's voice dripped with contempt. Ethan's heart sank. Betrayal cut deeper than any injury. Cole was playing both sides, weaving webs where trust used to be. And now, as Layla's life hung in the balance, Ethan had unwittingly walked straight into a trap. They weren't just fighting for survival. This was a war fueled by ambition and revenge. And in that moment, as the chaos roared around him, Ethan realized he had to decide, fight back or let everything he cared for slip away. The city's pulse thundered beneath their feet, and as the storm of conflict brewed overhead, each heartbeat echoed the stunning question: what was real? What did it cost to reclaim a life worth living now that the ground beneath them trembled with deceit? The air crackled with danger, leaving them on the very edge of disaster. As the chaos settled, the electric tension in the air thickened around Ethan and Layla. They stood firmly linked in a world spiraling into confusion, but it felt like a fragile glass construct, ready to shatter at. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from a nearby storefront, sending shards of glass flying like shooting stars. People screamed, scattered, and a parade of sirens filled the streets. Layla clutched Ethan's arm, searching his eyes with a mix of fear and determination. "We need to get out of here," she shouted, her voice strained against the chaos. They turned to flee, but Ethan felt a pull, like a magnet drawing him back. That's when it happened. The ground shook. A massive black SUV barreled through the crowd, tires screeching against the asphalt. Time slowed. Ethan watched, heart racing, as it veered directly toward them. Panic seized him. He pushed Layla out of the way, just as the vehicle slammed into him with brutal force. Ethan's world flipped. Pain surged through him, an electric shock. He staggered, falling hard against the pavement, the taste of blood metallic in his mouth. He felt Layla's hands on him, her cries blurring as fear seeped into her voice. "Ethan, no, stay with me!" But darkness encroached. In that split second between consciousness and void, a figure emerged from the SUV. Tall, imposing, standing there in power. Force, corruption, sickness, unspeakable hands, sigma, and pain. Focus. Intense study. Watched magic. How often did I prank? In a deeper engineering sense, a battle against the unknown, as they say. Tabal, unbared and guea, and we outgun our prey. Rosie won. The wrong way. Because it all happened. Where? Inside America. Picture where? Imagine. A picture! A picture! Now, standing in the wreckage of their past, his expression was unreadable. But Ethan saw a flash of something else. Fear? Guilt? Then, the shocking twist unfurled. The man reached into his coat, pulling out a flash drive. "Ethan, I didn't have a choice!" he shouted, voice gravelly with urgency. They know about Layla. They know everything. Victor's wild eyes connected with Layla's, revealing a hidden truth shrouded in darkness. Ethan's heart hammered. What did he mean? Layla's past, her birthright, was now interwoven in a web of corporate greed and danger. What are you talking about? Ethan struggled to rise, but the weight of Victor's revelation pressed down harder than the asphalt beneath him. Just then, the crowd surged forward, an ocean of frantic confusion. Someone yelled about an explosion nearby. Sirens wailed louder, drowning out clarity. Layla's eyes shifted between Ethan and Victor, confusion twisting her features tight. What does he mean? What do you know? Ethan could hardly breathe, fear coiling like a snake in his chest. Victor stepped closer, urgency edging his voice. You've got to trust me, Ethan. It's bigger than you realize. This isn't just about us anymore. They're coming for her, for all of us. Ethan's mind raced. Was Victor the enemy or the ally he needed? His mentor, once a guiding star, now seemed like a harbinger of doom. Could he really be trusted after all the times he had been sidelined? With panic coursing through him like electricity, Ethan tried to focus. Layla, I need you to listen. But all she did was shake her head, backing away, taking in Victor's face and its implications. You brought him here? You brought this danger to our door? Layla, please, Ethan cried out, desperation spilling from him. Her disbelief felt like a knife, cutting deeper, and just like that, she turned, eyes blazing, stepping back into the chaotic crowd. I can't trust either of you. The night shattered around them in flashes of chaos and cries. As Ethan fought to rise, his heart sank. The fight was far from over, and a storm was closing in. They stood at the edge of a precipice. Betrayal hanging heavy in the air. But who was truly betraying whom? The city held its breath, waiting for the next move, unsure of who would emerge unscathed. Ethan looked helplessly after Layla, as doubt shadowed every step she took away from him. Wait, he shouted. But as her silhouette faded into the night, uncertainty clutched at his throat. What peril awaited? And could they ever piece together this shattered bond before it was too late? Ethan felt the air thicken as Layla pulled away, confusion etching her features tighter. The sounds of chaos faded into a distant hum, eclipsed by the gnawing sense of dread. He wanted to reach out, to tell her she was wrong, that he'd never betray her. But the distance she placed between them felt like a chasm. Layla, wait! He shouted. But she was already lost in the chaos. He turned back to Victor, fear and anxiety colliding. What have you done? Victor opened his mouth to speak, but before he could utter a word, a blaring horn cut through the tumult. A second SUV screeched to a halt beside them. The front door swung open, and out stepped a woman clad in a sleek black suit, her expression unreadable. Valentina Russo. The name echoed like a death knell in Ethan's mind. She was powerful, ruthless, and had been someone he thought he could always count on. Until now. Get in, she shouted, urgency painting her voice as if time was about to collapse. But Ethan hesitated. Why was she here? With his life in shambles, trusting anyone felt dangerous. Memories of her cold calculations flickered in his vision. Ethan, that's not an option! Victor urged, panic dripping from each word. The chaos around them heightened, a violent storm approaching their fragile ground. Ethan's mind raced as he tried to process the unfolding disaster. But amidst the noise of shouting and scrambling feet, a sudden, sharp clap of thunder exploded overhead, resonating ominously. Rain began to fall hard, transforming the panic into a wild dance of confusion. But something in the storm was different. Ethan's heart sank as he caught a glimpse of Layla again, standing firm in the midst of it all, her gaze fixed on Victor. Then came a deafening crack, the dull sound of a gunshot. Ethan's blood ran cold. He turned just in time to see Victor staggering backward, his face blanched. No, Ethan barely breathed the word. And then it happened, an unexpected twist, like a sudden earthquake underfoot. Victor's hand fell away from his side, revealing a wound previously hidden. "Victor!" Layla screamed, running toward him, eyes wide. He looked at Ethan, a flash of regret sharpening his eyes. "I never meant to," he muttered, voice trembling. But just then, Valentina stepped forward, her expression shifting from urgency to cold calculation. "Get her away from him," she ordered sharply. And then, as darkness settled over them, a scream broke the atmosphere, raw and unfiltered. It came from Jalen, Layla's brother, who emerged from the smoke, his hands stained crimson. You all knew," he cried out, heartache thundering around them. Ethan's throat constricted. Confusion overwhelmed him. Had Jalen really just aimed the gun? Was he part of this chaotic web of deceit? "Jalen, no!" Layla called, bewildered. But nothing could amend the horror unfolding. His words came like a dagger, piercing through the fragile threads of alliances they had woven. "You think I'd let her get caught up in your lies? You think I'd ever let this happen?" His voice was a tempest. The crowd around them shifted, eyes wide, whispers igniting questions that hung heavy in the air. Ethan felt the ground beneath him shift, everything he thought he knew crumbling into shards. Did Jalen truly suspect betrayal within their own ranks? Could they trust anyone anymore? The rain fell in torrents, mingling with the chaos rolling through the streets. Time slipped away, and in that critical moment, everything distorted, relationships blurred, and secrets coiled tighter, and every breath became harder to take. As Ethan looked between the two, guilt gripping his insides, and understanding wrapped him tighter than ever. Layla's life hung by the thinnest of threads, intertwined with a past that was rising like a specter, threatening to consume them all. And in that moment, a stark realization hit. Trust was a fragile illusion, and the reckoning was just beginning. "What, Layla?" he shouted. But the darkness was closing in. Would he lose her in the storm? The question echoed in the roar of the rain, leaving him breathless with uncertainty. What were they about to uncover? Together or apart? The ride ahead surged dark and wild, teetering on the edge of ruin, and they were all about to be swept away. Ethan felt the air thicken as Layla pulled away, confusion etching her features tighter. The sounds of chaos faded into a distant hum, eclipsed by the gnawing sense of dread. He wanted to reach out, to tell her she was wrong, that he'd never betray her. But the distance she placed between them felt like a chasm. "Layla, wait!" he shouted, but she was already lost in the chaos. He turned back to Victor, fear and anxiety colliding. "What have you done?" Victor opened his mouth to speak, but before he could utter a word, a blaring horn cut through the tumult. A second SUV screeched to a halt beside them. The front door swung open, and out stepped a woman clad in a sleek black suit, her expression unreadable. Valentina Russo, the name echoed like a death knell in Ethan's mind. She was powerful, ruthless, and had been someone he thought he could always count on. Until now. "Get in!" she shouted, urgency painting her voice as if time was about to collapse. But Ethan hesitated. Why was she here? With his life in shambles, trusting anyone felt dangerous. Memories of her cold calculations flickered in his vision. "Ethan, that's not an option," Victor urged, panic dripping from each word. The chaos around them heightened, a violent storm approaching their fragile ground. Ethan's mind raced as he tried to process the unfolding disaster. But amidst the noise of shouting and scrambling feet, a sudden, sharp clap of thunder exploded overhead, resonating ominously. Rain began to fall hard, transforming the panic into a wild dance of confusion. But something in the storm was different. Ethan's heart sank as he caught a glimpse of Layla, again, standing firm in the midst of it all, her gaze fixed on Victor. Then came a deafening crack, the dull sound of a gunshot. Ethan's blood ran cold. He turned just in time to see Victor staggering backward, his face blanched. "Victor!" Layla screamed, running toward him, eyes wide. But then, in that heartbeat of chaos, something kindled within Ethan. It was Layla's brother, Jalen, eyes wild, breathless, pulling a small device from his pocket. "He's the one!" Jalen shouted, voice sharp with fury. Suddenly, the sky lit up with a flash, illuminating shadows all around them. In that moment, everything came crashing down. Victor fell to the ground, hands clutching his side, not gasping for air, but something far worse, a flicker of recognition in his eyes, turning to fear. Then, a horrific revelation. "No!" Victor gasped, the sound raw, dripping with despair. "You were meant to stay hidden. How could you do this?" The city's energy shifted. Layla's face turned from concern to shock. "What are you talking about?" she gasped. Jalen stepped forward, rage visible on his face. "The truth will burn this city down if we don't stand together." His voice was almost a growl, wrapped in sorrow and anger. The device flickered to life, and suddenly the air crackled with energy. A holographic projection burst forth, a spinning image that revealed something unimaginable. Ethan's eyes widened as he stared. It was a plan, a conspiracy that linked Victor and Valentina to a secret society buried in the foundations of the city. Encrypted messages flashed behind the hologram, detailing an operation so massive it felt like the ground beneath them shook with its implications. "You're the real danger," Jalen screamed, pointing at Victor, tears streaming down his face. "This was all a setup. They used you." Every breath felt heavier. Layla recoiled, the realization washing over her. "All this time, we were just pawns in your game? You knew about our family?" Her voice cracked, wavering between fury and pain. In that moment, everything shifted. Victor, once a trusted figure, now ley exposte. En arquitecto de Betrea, chillando con penazo, cegando con cubrir la verdad. The crowd held its spirit, watching, judging, ojos colgados sobre el hombre que había manipulado vidas como piecitos en un calendario de ajedrez. Ethan, I never meant for it to come to this. Victor tomó, realization settling in like a sour taste. Layla's hand tightened itself on the Ethan's arm, looking into his eyes, waiting for his reaction. The weight of the secrets hung thick in the air, the stakes climbing higher with every whisper of the storm. But just as Ethan clenched his jaw, ready to confront Victor, another blast suddenly echoed, a shout that was swallowed by the raging chaos. Ethan turned, eyes wide, fear clawing at him as a new figure emerged from the smoke. A woman in a red dress. Elegance mixed with chaos. It was someone he recognized. But the truth landed like a punch. "Ethan," she called. Voice crisp and thick. And then a reality-shattering truth slipped from her lips. A secret that would turn him inside out. Just as the rain poured down, a storm was brewing that would unravel everything they thought they knew. The city was falling apart, but so too was the world they lived in. What lay ahead? Would the fire burn them all or spark rebirth? Time was ticking, and nothing would ever be the same again. As the holographic projection flickered between them, the world around Ethan and Layla blurred into chaos. Victor lay sprawled on the ground, breaths coming shallow and quick as the weight of his secrets crashed down. Jalen stood firm, the flickering device in hand, revealing a horrifying conspiracy that unraveled everything they believed. Each detail sent shockwaves through the crowd, spectators frozen, mouths agape. "Layla, listen!" Ethan shouted, urgency clawing at his insides. "This isn't us. We can fight this." The fear in her eyes twisted into determination. "I won't let them win, not after everything." In that moment, something ignited between them, a shared understanding. No more ghosts, cloaked in shadows. They stood together, ready to confront the storm. Jalen turned his device off, the projection vanishing, but not the weight of its revelations. "Victor used us," Jalen hissed, stepping closer, anger palpable in his voice. "He has manipulated your family, your life, this city." The truth pressed on Ethan like a heavy anchor, and for the first time, he saw the vulnerability in Victor's gaze. "It wasn't supposed to end like this, Victor's words faltered. A deep breath shook Ethan's body. "What did you expect? We trusted you." His voice trembled with a mix of hurt and rage. Then Valentina stepped forward, her demeanor shifting, eyes glinting with resolve. "Ethan, we can utilize this momentum. We can expose them all." Her words struck a chord. Together, they could forge a new path. The city had been their battleground, and now it could become their ally. But the stakes loomed large, a shadow over every breath they took. Layla nodded, defiance painting her features, hands clenched. "Then let's do it. Let's fight back." A ripple of murmurs spun through the crowd, some eyes wide in disbelief, others flickering with hope. "Are you in or out?" Jalen addressed those watching, challenging them to choose a side. With a slow nod, a handful of faces stepped forward into the light. Friends, allies, people ready to stand against the dark tide. Hope tinged with fear, intermingled in the air. But before they could unite, gunshots rang out in the distance, echoing the chaos. Panic erupted again, a new wave crashing over them. Jalen's eyes flared with urgency. We need to act now, before they close in on us again. Ethan grabbed Layla's hand, determination surging through him. Stay close! Their world had just turned from chaos into an opportunity to reshape everything. Together they rushed toward the exit, adrenaline driving them forward. Sirens filled the air, blending into the beat of their hearts. As they dashed through the streets, the rain poured down, washing away the remnants of betrayal. In that moment, something shifted. No longer were they just fleeing. They were running towards something greater, a chance to bring light where darkness had taken root. They glanced back, determination reaffirmed in their gazes. The path ahead loomed uncertain. But they wouldn't turn back. And as the city buzzed with energy, the question lingered. What would they uncover as they forged ahead? So much lay ahead, waiting to be discovered, and with renewed hope flickering in their hearts. They prepared to embrace the unknown. Whatever would come next was theirs to seize. But before you dive into the next chapter of their journey, you have to subscribe now! Don't miss a single moment of this gripping saga. Smash that like button. It really helps the algorithm. Flood the comments with your thoughts and reactions. What do you think about this ending? What's next for Ethan and Layla? Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who also need to experience this wild ride. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even a second longer.